What's up, everybody? It is December 8th. It is Monday. We just got done with what is likely the last regular season of your fantasy football season. So we are starting to get into what I like to refer to as the money weeks. We got to understand what we're seeing. We have got to make sure that our lineups are set correctly. Who's playing, who's not playing, who's got the role changed, who's getting 100% of the snaps, and who's fallen off the board a little bit. And each Monday, about 9 o'clock, I got my coffee in me when I'm starting to feel good, feel alive, ready to attack the week. I like to put together some thoughts about the IDP landscape I saw from last week. This week was no shortage of good players. I tried to throw some different names in there, a lot of names that people ask me questions about often. Some well known IDPs, some maybe not so well known IDPs, but at the end of the day, if they're on a roster and they're getting snaps, we got to know about them. IDP is a game where trends change pretty quick. There's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of substitution patterns. There's a lot of people that don't play the full game. It's a lot less structured than what I would consider the offensive side of the ball to be. There's just more players that contribute more often in IDP. And those trends change weekly. You got guys at the beginning of the year that you think are going to do great. A great example of that would be like Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter for the Cincinnati Bengals. The linebackers, both are rookies, but at the beginning of the year, everybody thought that Demetrius Knight was going to be that gem, that IDP rookie darling. But then you see Barrett Carter over the past, I think, 9 games now straight. He's at 100% of snap. You wouldn't have thought that at the beginning of the year. And if you don't change your mindset to react to these trends in the league, you're not going to win your league. So, without further ado, I got a couple of questions here in the chat I want to answer first. We're going to throw up on here from Third Eye 0007. Can we trust Tyke Smith this week? If he's good to go, which two safeties should I start? Emmanuel, Tyke, Stone, Antoine Winfield, or Winston Jr.? Got a lot of questions about Winston Jr. this past couple of weeks, and I don't know much about him. I do know that he's got an opportunity to play right now, and I think that ultimately that's what you're chasing for if you need that in deep leagues. I don't think in your I don't think in your traditional fantasy football leagues that aren't super deep, if you've got these other names, I'm not going to try to throw shade on the guy, but I don't go for players like that when you've got these type of options around. If Tyke Smith is good, yes, I think he needs to be in your lineup. It's hard to say on Monday after a game. I'm sure he's not feeling good. None of these guys are feeling 100% until like Thursday or Friday at times. So I think if he's going to play, Tyke Smith has been a very reliable. He's been a safe option with some boom upside, but at the same time, he's a guy that should be set and forget when he plays. But I understand the skepticism. This time of the year, you got to have guys that you know are going to play. From this list, I think I'm going to go with Tyke and then Emin Wari, who I will talk about here shortly in the thread. Emin Wari started off kind of slow, and I'm not going to try to bury the lead here. I'll read kind of what I said a little bit later on. But basically, Emin Wari was drafted highly. He's got a defensive head coach in Mike McDonald, and I love IDPs with defensive-minded head coaches. It's like when you have Sean McVay for the Rams. It's going to amplify all of their offensive weapons. It's not just going to amplify one player. And I like to think that that same principle can be applied to defensive coaches with IDPs. Maybe the floor remains stable, but I do think he amplifies the ceiling. And we saw Emin Wari last week or on Sunday. He blocked a kick. He was all over the field. And I think a guy like that, you just want to have happen. He's got that young, fresh leg. So this time in the year, he's probably not hurting as bad as some of his teammates. And I do think that he's got that type of athleticism, that big play upside that you need from the defensive back position. So thank you, Third Eye 0007. I appreciate it. I got another one here, and this is from Harry Brooks, Y9B. Which three linebackers should I start this week? Jack Campbell against the Rams, Devin White against Philly, Quay Walker against Denver, the Landman against Detroit, or Barrett Carter versus Baltimore. Not sure of recent trends, but they don't have great matchups. I agree. Sometimes, you're just going to get kind of those ugly matchups, especially if you got players on good teams, because good teams, the NFL likes to backload the schedule throughout the holidays. Once college football is off your screen, the NFL kind of dominates the airways, specifically for these next 2 weeks. There's not a single college football game of meaning that's really on the TV. So you're going to start seeing the big NFL matchups. You're going to start seeing these games get flexed. We already saw the Bengals and Dolphins game just got flexed out of Sunday night, rightfully so. And you're going to see the big time matchups are going to get amplified. So the back end of the schedule, the fantasy season, not only is it hard enough to deal with a week 14 bye week, which I'm sure many of us probably got trapped in this past week and may have hurt some playoff chances. But once you get past that last bye week, you're going to start seeing the big games. And that's the good teams playing each other, like Detroit versus the Rams here, right? The Raiders and Philly is not really a great matchup. Denver and Green Bay is a fantastic game. Bengals Baltimore, you're always going to have fireworks in that game. We saw it on Thursday, the Thursday night of Thanksgiving. The Bengals actually with a surprise victory there. You're just going to get big time matchups this time of year. But from this question, the three that I would start, I think you got them in the correct order here. Like I think if I was going to name them down the list, it would go with exactly this. So my starters would be Jack Campbell, Devin White, and Quay Walker. But I also want to say that I don't think you can go wrong with the other two. But if you're looking for what I believe is the highest ceiling, the biggest point potential for the three, or for the five, it's those three. And that, again, is Jack Campbell, Devin White, and Quay Walker. And Harry, I saw your other question in here. Yes, Quay Walker did play 100% of the snaps this week. I just looked that up here before we got on. He and Edgerrin Cooper both played 100% of the snaps. And then surprisingly, Isaiah McDuffie played 51% of the snaps too. So we didn't see a situation where McDuffie spelled either one of those two. They just added him to the game plan. And I think that's 100% because we saw him excel with the extended playing time in that defense, and we saw him be highly productive, at least in IDP purposes. I mean, if you want to go down the old PFF advanced metrics stat line, good for you. But as far as statistical output, Isaiah McDuffie was fantastic. And if you watched this show last week or maybe a week ago or the week before that, I believe that McDuffie, if you're a team that's eliminated right now, if you're not a contender, if you feel like, my season's over, don't just stop participating unless your league no longer does waivers after a certain point. I think that Isaiah McDuffie is the perfect player to put on your roster to come into next season. Still a young linebacker. He's ascending, and we're clearly seeing him get opportunities when given the chance. And I think players like that, eventually the tab is going to come due. They're going to have to either pay him or let him walk. And I think when you have young linebackers, specifically in dynasty formats, that have shown us IDP output, stashing them in the back end of your regular season, early beginning of the playoffs, and again, it depends on when your league waiver rules are, stashing in with an extra bench spot and start trimming the fat a little bit earlier, that's going to make you come into next season with a decisive advantage over some of the people who are going to have to wait until the offseason. But that's not why you come here. You don't come here to listen to me pontificate about linebackers that don't start. You come here to read, react, and hate on my tweet from earlier today, the thread, the IDP notes from this past weekend. We're going to start off with who I thought had the best IDP day, maybe not the most sexy day. It was pretty concise, pretty tight there, but it was Devin White. Raiders linebacker Devin White had arguably the best game of the weekend against the Broncos. He had 19 total tackles, 10 of which were solo tackles. He now has 133 total tackles on the season. He's well on his way to eclipsing his career high of 140 tackles, which has seemingly come out of nowhere this season. White got the nod early by the coaching staff, and he is having his best statistical season of his career. He's been a pleasant surprise for IDP managers, regardless of what your format is. And I really want to highlight the 10 solo tackles this week. Okay, a 19 tackle game, regardless of how you get it, is going to move your matchup. It's going to give you an opportunity. It's going to really raise your floor of your IDP. I mean, you don't expect 19 tackles, but 10 of them being solo tackles is a true game changer. You get 10 tackles, period, however you slice them. Excuse me. Just had some great chicken pot pie, and it's not cooperating with my stomach. But if you have a 10 solo tackle type of a guy, you're getting that double point essentially. An assisted tackle is nice. A solo tackle is better. And 10 of them, that's a week winning performance with no other assisted tackles. But then you add 9 assisted tackles in there, and you've got yourself a game breaker. And Devin White was a guy maybe I didn't want to buy immediately. He got the green dot early, week one. Everybody was kind of like, oh my God, is Devin White legit? And when Devin White has had opportunities to play, he was fantastic. But when Zach Bond moved to Philly and they had Nakobe Dean, when he got cut, it wasn't like he just quit, resigned, or was traded. He got cut. And he got cut because he couldn't beat out those two. Now, those are two really high level linebackers, but it was going to be his third opportunity here in Vegas. He was good for Tampa Bay, but he wasn't good enough to stick to the roster. Levante David is still doing it, drafting in 2012. So this is year 13 or 14. So Devin White had all the promise in the world, and he had stats to back it up. but he couldn't really find a home. And I think we finally are seeing him fill the void that is the Las Vegas Raiders linebacking core. They've had productive starters in the past. Devin White has probably been the most secure starter that they've had in quite some time. And I do see that continuing down the stretch here. And Harry Brooks just put in a question asking about starters. And I believe that Devin White was one of those answers. And I do believe he needs to be in your lineups moving forward, especially in crunch time, in the money weeks, playoff time. Third Eye, he's back in here. He's got more questions. He's gonna make sure we get this show going. What do you make of Papo? Good game in Arizona. Did he play more snaps than Simon? And who would you rather have, him or Barrett Carter? Well, you're asking a Bengals fan. Okay, so I'm never going to throw shade on Barrett Carter, regardless of what your dumb little PFF stats saying that they're 52 and 53 as far as PFF ranking. I think that stuff's a bit overrated. As far as the snap share, Papo played 50% of the snaps, and Cody Simon played 100%. And they were the only two linebackers that played more than just one snap. Keem Davis Gaither played a snap, and so did Channing Tindall. This is through Football Guys snap counts. And I don't believe you need to mess with that. You don't get cute this time of year. Papo is he's gonna be fun to have. You know, you've probably been waiting on him all year to finally get some playing time. I believe this was his first game of the season. He played half the snaps, so that's good. But Arizona's not playing for anything. And I don't like relying on teams that don't play for anything really, especially with the quarterbacks going down now. They've switched to Jacoby Brissett for the rest of the season. It may be Kyler Murray's last time there. If that's truly what's going on here, we're seeing a shift. So snap counts are going to get weird. But Cody Simon is a young linebacker. I think he's a second-year guy, maybe a first-year guy off the top of my head. I can't recall. But he's playing 100% of the snaps, and he has played 100% of the snaps since week 10. And we are now at week 15. He has not come off the field in 6 straight games or 5 straight games. So don't get cute with Papo. I think he's more of a stash than he is a start guy, but I don't think that that's a bad way to look at kind of how you're constructing your season at the end. So no, the snap counts weren't as weird as you would think they would be, but Cody Simon is not coming off the field, and those are the type of players that you need to have in your lineups moving forward. So thank you again, Third Eye 0007. To the next player on my thread of knowledge, I've consulted the oracles of the IDP, and they have told me that Seahawks safety Nick Amenwari had his best game of his career against the Falcons this week. He had 6 total tackles, a sack, an interception, and he blocked a kick. Amenwari was a slow burn this season in IDP, but he's come on strong over the stretch run of the season. He has a total of 53 tackles and 9 defended passes to his name, even while missing 3 games early this season. So he's showing us that you can't just throw at him. Okay, he's not the type of rookie. But there's a saying in some of the leagues I play in that we call it the rookie corner rule. And it's like worst case scenario, if you need a defensive back, just look for a rookie corner who's getting 100% of the snaps. But don't try to go after the good ones. You want the guys that are heavily targeted that aren't coming off the field. But Amenwari is not the type of defensive back that you're going to pick on. He's just a big play guy. He's got a solid tackle floor. Like I said, 53 tackles, even though he missed 3 games. So in 11 games, 53 tackles, you're going under just 5 tackles a game at defensive back for a rookie in your first year in the NFL to pair with this big play upside. Like I said, he blocked a kick. He's got 9 defended passes. That's the type of big play upside you want to have. I don't think he should anchor an IDP team. I don't think he's somebody that you just need to immediately go, okay, I got to have him in here and then I'll fill in whoever is next. I think he's the perfect complement if you start 2 defensive backs to be a second defensive back. I think you need to try to swing for more stability there. Not that he's not a stable player, but I just get nervous with rookies because eventually these teams are going to start scheming to get him out of the play, specifically at the defensive back position. We all know it. Shutdown quarters are great. They sell a lot of merch. They get a lot of swag. They got a lot of cool plays. But when offensive coaches identify that these dudes wreck games, they tend to steer the game plan away from what they do. And I think that Amenwari is the type of player they can use in various spots on the field. He's playing a lot of different positions, but he's being effective in those positions. And at the end of the day, I think a little bit of the positional viability for some of these guys is overrated. You just need guys who are playing on the field and who are productive in those snaps. And Amenwari has been the perfect player to be productive in snaps. with early, and he had high draft capital. And like I said to start the pod, defensive head coaches amplify IDPs, and he's got a really good defensive head coach. Skywalker, he has a question. Another safety question, my favorite position on the football field. Which safety should I target in Detroit? Did Maddox play the Brian Branch role? Man, bro, first of all, I want to say that Brian Branch, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. This is the worst part of the game. Brian Branch is one of the best players on the field when he's on the field, and that's including Aiden Hutchinson being on the same team as him and the upstart Jack Campbell alongside Thor, Alex Anzalone. So seeing somebody like him go down is just a kick in the you know what. But as far as who is kind of picking up those snaps, I can tell you it's not a safety. They only had 10 total snaps from safeties in that game that were not Brian Branch. So Detroit's not playing a traditional defensive scheme. They're not playing the whole, okay, we got to have two safeties and this many corners and this many linebackers. They're trying to mix and match. But I will say, as far as Avonte Maddox did play 98% of the snaps, which was equal to 80 snaps this game. Okay, 80 opportunities for points in this game. Now, it was a shootout, and I don't think you're going to get that every week. It was a fantastic game on Thursday night. As far as the Brian Branch role, maybe he played the position. I don't think anybody's going to be able to replicate what Brian Branch does. But if you are chasing some of that thing, he was one of three corners on that team that got 98% of the snaps. So he's not traditionally a safety, but he is getting the snaps there. And he did not get the snaps prior to this injury. So I do think that that's something you need to be cautious with when there are players that are playing out of position and filling gaps. That means the team is reacting to what they have, not what they want to do. And if they were happy with what they saw, and I don't think giving up as many points to Dallas as they did, they're going to be happy with what they saw. I do think it's something to monitor. I think it's a good question. It's a deep question. Good for you, Skywalker. I would keep an eye on that. And then we got Skywalker again in here saying Nick Warriors playing in the slot. Where is Witherspoon playing? Strictly 100% corner. He had a great game. He did have a great game. I've never broken down what Witherspoon plays on the field when he does it. I've traditionally stay away from corners, so my corner knowledge is less than ideal to answer questions like this. What I can say is it just kind of goes back to the Avonte Maddox thing. He's a traditional corner. He is supposed to play corner. And when you play these guys out of position, sometimes it works. We're seeing Jalen Ramsey do that in Pittsburgh this year. He's kind of gone back to the deep safety role, and they signed Kyle Duggar, and they basically overhauled their entire defensive backfield, and it's working well. But Jalen Ramsey is a one-of-one talent. He's somebody that was a lockdown corner for many years prior to this change, and I believe that he's one of the better defensive backs that we've seen over the past 5 to 7 years. So seeing him transition there doesn't shock me because he's a good football player. And not to saying that, Witherspoon is not a good football player, but is he to the level of Jalen Ramsey? So when you got these guys playing out of positions, especially this time of the year, I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I don't think it's going to be something that I would put my chips in the middle for. But if you're in a deep league and this is something you absolutely have to do, I don't think your process is bad to think, yes, he had a monster game. And like I said, he plays in that Seattle defense. That Seattle defense is legit. So having as many players in a good defense and a good defensive scheme as you can is never going to hurt an IDP. I just caution you with corners this late in the year, especially if you're playing for money. I'm a play for money guy. I like to gamble a little bit, so sue me. Sorry, mom and dad. But I want to see production that I can rely on, not production that I've just recently seen. I don't like living in the past. I like looking in the here and now. And I like to know who I'm putting out there. Avonte Maddox, I think I like him more of the two from these two questions. If you were going to ask me, okay, gun to the head, which one of these traditional corners would you trust? I think Maddox, only because I could see Witherspoon going back to a lockdown role as a cornerback, depending on the matchup and the team that they play. They're going to want to try to take away some high volume pass catchers. And then we got some Julian Love. He played 100% of the snaps, and there was not a great game. Let me see. I'm going to verify. I'm almost certain he did play 100% of the snaps and had a bad game. Let's see here. Love. Where are you at? Love played at 31% of the snaps. 31%. So no, he actually took a pretty significant snap count hit. And I think they're a team that's still contending. They're a team that can actually potentially contend for the NFC title this year. And I don't think that they are quick to rush back players like that. They're probably going to ease him in over the next couple of weeks. So be cautious with him. I understand if you see him in your on your roster and he's healthy and he's going to play, it's going to be very, very tempting to want to put him in your lineup regardless. But keep in mind, he's coming off an injury that sidelined him for, let's see here. I mean, just quick math here, 8 to 10 games he's been out this season. So I don't think I would want to trust that right away. Not a great game for sure, but I also don't think that he got enough snaps for him to even possibly have a great game. And then Mr. Harry Brooks one more time. Herbie Joseph will be back. And if he's back, yeah, it changes everything in Detroit. You don't want to mess around with Avonte Maddox, but I still believe he's worth a he's worth a look because they clearly trust him enough to be available to play multiple positions. And as far as cornerbacks go, you need tiebreakers to know who you're going to pick, and it's who's going to be on the field, and can they do more than just man up a guy? Can they contribute to the stat line another way? Thank you guys so much for the questions so far. Make sure you get them down there. I got plenty of time to read over them, and I'll go through some snap counts to my best of my ability. And I apologize if I'm a little bit slow on that. I've not had a lot of snap count questions, so keep your boy active. We're going to move on to the next guy, somebody who IDP managers are very familiar with, and we just need to enjoy the ride while it's here. Commanders linebacker Bobby Wagner did what he's known to do in IDP, show up when it matters the most. He had 16 tackles and a sack this week, proving yet again he is the ageless wonder of the sport. This raised his total to 131 tackles on the season. He's become more of a tackle volume player in the twilight years of his career, but as long as the volume is steady like this, there's no reason to believe that he can't amplify your fantasy floor and get you to the promised land as a key cog in the fantasy machine. And I'm just going to go into what I consistently talk about in this show, and that is having players in your lineup that you know aren't going to lose the game. It's easy to look for the big play guys, the guys who are on sack streaks and they just get 2 sacks this game. And then, oh my God, 2 weeks ago they had a sack and a half. But you have to have players in your lineup that are just steady bell cows. It's like having the running back that you know is going to get 20 touches. Like, yes, it would be nice if all 20 of those rushes were 10, 15-yard scampers, but the reality is they're not. But the volume is there, the consistency is there for you to set your lineup and know that I have this in my back pocket. And Bobby Wagner is the linebacker equivalent of that. Don't care about the age. The Commanders have nothing on that defense that's worth really looking into. Sweat is okay. I like Jacob Martin, but nobody that has played IDP is ever going to say an ill word about Bobby Wagner. He's no longer going to get these highlight reel worthy plays. He's just not that player anymore. The age is starting to creep up on him a little bit. But the consistency that he tackles the ball carrier is something you can take to the bank, and you 100% need to take it to the bank in the money weeks of the playoffs. John Montgomery, who is this guy? We can't possibly be related, can we? We only play one. Cedric Gray or Peyton Wilson. You did this on this, Mr. Montgomery. I I like them both. I like them both. Pre-draft for both of them, I took pretty strong stands on. Cedric Gray was a slow burn. Peyton Wilson was a slow burn. I think if you're going to go bar for bar here, who do I like more? It's got to be Peyton Wilson, and it's only because I just don't see. I see the ceiling higher for Wilson than I do Gray. But I do want to say, in that caveat, Cedric Gray's never a bad start. He's never a guy that you're going to need to worry about. Okay, what's he going to do for me this week? He went through some weird playing time spells earlier in the year. Not sure if that was just like a welcome to the NFL type of a moment for him. But Tennessee's bad. And Pittsburgh's still fighting for that first place in the AFC North. Whether you think they're good or bad, they're in first place, and they've got decisive victories over second and third place. So they're still going to compete, and he has played significant amounts of snaps for that defense. Even though Patrick Queen is there, he's been a productive linebacker. Miss me with all that Cole Holcomb nonsense that we saw a few weeks back. I know you know what that means, John. But I think that we need to know what we're getting. And we know that Peyton Wilson is playing for a team that's defensive minded. They're playing for something. The motivation is still there, and he's got a good defense around him. I know they've underperformed a bit, but Pittsburgh's defense is still legit when they're playing at their peak. So go with Peyton Wilson here. Third eye, good to see you again, man. In need of safety help. Lions are signing Demonte Casey to the team's practice squad, hoping to elevate him soon. Look, you are throwing some names at man. First of all, you have to be from Detroit in order to know this much about what's going on in Detroit. And I applaud you for this, dude. Practice squad is practice squad. Until he's elevated to the roster, I'm not going to focus on him. But there's clearly there that kind of speaks back to the Avonte Maddox thing we were talking about. If we're still moving, still trying to find guys to fill that spot, that should tell you all you need to know about how they feel about that position right now. And if the team doesn't know what they're doing, I'm out. I can't handle it. I don't want to. I don't want to. If it was week 5 or 6 and it was a bye week thing, like okay, I'll throw a flyer out there. But as far as in the playoffs, just don't mess with it. You don't know what you're going to get. And if you're this late into the season and you've made the playoffs, don't lose your season because you took a chance on a guy who was on the practice squad before you even went after some of the well-known guys. Gonna go back to the thread here, guys. We're gonna go to Browns edge rusher Myles Garrett. He's even closer to the NFL single season sack record with a sack against the Titans this week. He has hit 20 on the season. He has 3 off the record with 4 games to go. He has the Bears, Bills, Steelers, and Bengals down the stretch. And a player of his caliber, we all know, can explode at any moment. In his previous games against the Steelers and Bengals this season, he had 2 total sacks, both of which were against the Bengals. I think he breaks the record this year. I do think it's just kind of it's going to happen at some point. We're going to see it happen. But as a Bengals fan with no hope and nothing to live for, I kind of hope it's against us because it'll give me something to watch in that last week of the season. So Myles Garrett, yet again, proving me to be a blowhard because I said this season was going to be a regression season. And you know what? Maybe he read the article. Maybe he was like, I'm going to get this idiot in Indianapolis. I'm going to show him I can break the record. So you're welcome, IDP fans. That was my fault because I doubted the man. Lions linebacker Jack Campbell is really coming into his own this season. And this past Thursday was no different. He had 12 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. And this brings his season totals to 129 tackles, 5 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles. At 25 years old, he's a dynasty darling, and he contends for the top spot of any IDP debate. And if you are fortunate enough to have him on your roster, you're likely in your league's playoffs. There's not much I can say about Jack Campbell that hasn't really already been said by every IDP guy that you know. But I just want to really hone in on the fact that he's 25 years old. He's going to have 130, 140. He's going to challenge for about 150 tackles this season. He has that upside with sacks and big plays, 3 forced fumbles, and that is a set and forget linebacker. If I had to rank right now where I think he is, I believe he's second only to Jordan Brooks. And that may be because I've got this love in my heart for Jordan Brooks. And I just think Jordan Brooks' tackle volume just puts him above and beyond everybody because you're just not seeing some of the numbers that we see from Jordan Brooks. But if I had to, in a dynasty format, Jack Campbell's linebacker one. I don't think you can say that Jordan Brooks is linebacker one in dynasty because he's been around for so long, even though he's not that old. But Campbell is just we're seeing him ascend into the top echelon of IDP this year. And I think you got to accept the fact that he has taken the role from Anzalone. He's limiting the ability of Derek Barnes because he is just everywhere on the field when he plays. And the Lions have a gem in him. Everybody's favorite IDP coming into that draft class. And again, he's having a great season at 25 years old. We got probably 7 to 8 more years of him minimum. And if he's like a Bobby Wagner, we could see another 10 to 12. We're going to talk about a position that doesn't get a lot of love next. That is the interior defensive lineman. Titans defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons is still one of the best defenders on the planet, but the team has been so bad we just don't really talk about their good players. He plays on the interior defensive line, a position group that rarely gets recognition, but he is having a quietly productive season. This week's 7 tackle, 1.5 sack outing took his totals to 48 tackles and 8 sacks on the season. He has tied his career high in sacks and is within his second highest total on tackles for the season. He's still the top dog at the position, and he's a must start regardless of format. When you get into these IDP leagues, a lot of times there's different roster constructions, different moves. You have everything from IDP leagues that play just the group, so defensive line, linebacker, and defensive back. You have IDP leagues with just flex players, so you can play anybody at any position. You've got a mixed match of both. You've got true position, which plays everything from edge to tackle, cornerback. I think regardless of where you are, if you have Jeffrey Simmons on your team, he needs to be in your lineup. And he's the type of player that is going to probably be frustrating. but he's the right kind of frustrating because he does have tackle upside. He's not going to get you a zero. He's not a zero guy. He's not a grenade in your hand. He's going to get you 2 or 3 tackles a game. But like we're seeing in here, he's got right now his career high in sacks. So he's in the middle of a career year. And I think that one of those guys that you have to keep in your lineups are guys that are overperforming, but not because they're just having quality year. It's just because they're getting better. And Simmons is their best player. Likely he's playing for the opportunity to be traded. It would not shock me if he was a guy that the Titans moved on from, tried to get more picks. They're likely going to get the first pick in the draft this year. And Jeffrey Simmons is well worth multiple picks. We saw a precedent be set with Quinnen Williams going to the Cowboys. We've seen interior defensive linemen move this year, so the value is there. We saw that Dallas can give up on Micah Parsons and still be viable on defense by improving their interior defensive line. And I think that Jeffrey Simmons also noticed that. So the better he plays, the more he's going to perform down the stretch here, the better opportunity it is for him to get traded because the Titans don't have enough around them to do a 1-year rebuild with all of these players. And they don't really have a lot of good guys there. So Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that I think is going to continue to try to do this throughout the rest of the season and potentially have another career year and maybe have some big games down the stretch. It's a Bengals show. You guys know that. I love Cincinnati as much as they've made me so mad this year. Bengals safety, Geno Stone, is continuing to put together the weirdest good season from defensive back this year. From relatively unknown at the start of the season to a matchup-altering tendency, Stone has been a waiver darling and has put together a career year. He has 93 tackles, 2 sacks, and 2 interceptions, and is a wonderful group of stats for a player who still might be on your waiver wire. This Bengals defense tends to get in shootouts, if you have not noticed, and shootouts are great for defensive backs and IDP. I mean, what more do you want? Teams throwing all over the place, having the defensive back on the bad defense. So if you're going to go with the bad defense, go with the defensive back. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here, but Geno Stone is playing significant snaps for Cincinnati. Jordan Battle, who is also having a great season, is getting the tackles. The linebackers are not performing to the way they should. Statistically, they're okay, but they're getting burned. And when they're getting burned, the next level of the defense has to pick up that slack, and that's the defensive backs. And Geno Stone is one of those guys. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, he was a waiver guy. Probably through the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season, he was a waiver guy. If he's still out there now and you need help, he's the guy to target. If he's not out there, but he's on your bench, I think you need to look at playing him most weeks because I just don't think that this Bengals defense is going to get better now that they're sort of eliminated. And I don't have hope that they're not eliminated, so let's just call it what it is. They're going to be bad. They don't have depth there. He is playing because they have a necessity at that position. And when you have bad teams that are getting the ball thrown on them, defensive back is the best IDP position to have for those players. That was it. That was the thread. 33 minutes. Lots of questions. Shout out to Skywalker, Harry, Third Eye, and I guess John for all of your questions. Thank you for entertaining this on a Monday night. I hope you guys all have a great week. Be with the ones you love. Keep playing some football. This is not over yet. We're playing for money now. We're playing for plaques. I don't play this so I can get in second place or third place. I play this so I can win, and I can let you know I'm going to win. So to everybody that I'm in a league with, I'm going to look directly into the camera. I'm winning that league. You can tell me that you don't think it's going to happen, but I'm telling you right now, I got the best team in that league, and it's just a matter of time before I complete that Monty Slam. Thank you, everybody, for watching the thread. I hope you have a great night. This was the IDP Underground.